It's time for another power-packed episode of Headspace with Dr. Mike. Each week, Dr. Mike is committed to addressing real life, sometimes polarizing and controversial issues, while offering practical and informed insight. Listen in as we discuss hot topics that matter to us and the communities we live in.
What's up, Headspace? What's going on, Headspacers? How's everyone going? You doing all right? It's been a while. It's been a few minutes, but we're going to be back with a level of consistency now that we are in it to win it. Fall is upon us, and we are back. You just stuck with me today, so hopefully y'all are good with that. How y'all feeling? We are in. First of all, can we just talk about the fact that we are in? We've completed the first full week of October. Time is just slipping away. Like, we are almost at 2022. I can't believe it. First of all, we've had this conversation before. I hate the winter. Hate is a strong word. Good morning, brother Kevin. Kevin, are you licking your wounds from your loss last week? Oh, we still have a long season ahead of us, but my boys did what they had to do in Denver. But y'all, can we just talk about, first of all, the fact that the summer's over? I'm grieving that because I love the summer. I just love the summer. And I think the older I get, the more and more I'm just like, yeah, I'm good with no winter. Snow is great when you don't have to do anything in it. But when you had to do stuff in it, it's not fun. So I'm not looking forward to that. And I just have a feeling, in Baltimore. What's up, sis? Hope you are all right. Kevin said, don't start with me, Dr. D. You right. I'm going to leave you alone, Kevin. I'm going to leave you alone. What's up, brother Jamal? Good morning. And what is happening, mama? My mama's here. Good. All is right with the world. Mama's here. So I just, I always make this joke that I am at a place now where I work and I got freaking flyer miles. I can visit the snow. Why anybody would do that, I don't know. I'm being funny, but I mean, I can visit the snow. I am good if it is shorts and t-shirt weather and flip-flops all year. So that's what we need to do. That's what needs to happen. So anyway, I cannot believe that we are here at the end of October. Time is waiting for no man or woman, for that matter. But you know what? We're gonna go with it. Because that's just what we gotta do. So I wish you all well. Hope you're all doing well. My son's what's going good, brother Daryl? Good to see you. What's going good? I'm sorry. I have Crystal. Crystal is like the producer, and I'm sitting here playing around. Let me get off my mouse and let Crystal do her job. Crystal is sitting here. I'm steady just doing stuff, and she's sitting back like, well, I guess he'll need me. Crystal, I'm sorry. Our producer works behind the scenes to keep us together, and I'm sitting here doing her job. Let me stay in my lane before she gets the union on me. All right, y'all, let's talk a little bit. What is going on in the world? So first of all, I have to talk about the fact, whatever are we going to do if and when Facebook actually decides to kick the bucket for good? Man, Facebook had a second outage again. They had another outage yesterday. It wasn't as long as the one earlier this week or last week, depending on how you look at it. But they have an outage. So what's that? Facebook, that's Instagram, that's WhatsApp. Yikes. Twitter was kicking though. Twitter, let me tell you something. Twitter waits for no one. And they have a lot to say. And you need to check out Twitter because Twitter, I tell you what, has a whole bunch. Crystal, you know what? I should have had you come on with me today because it's been a while and we got to talk because we haven't talked about. I've been messing with Kevin, but we didn't talk about the fact that we beat your boys too. Y'all, I'm just talking trash about football. Good to see you, Crystal. And yeah, Daryl, you asked a great question. Do you think it's a test? I don't know. A lot of stuff happens. On Facebook and on Instagram for that matter. And a lot of businesses are driven by that, mine included. Like I rely heavily on social media. What's up? What's up, Pastor Bree? So good to see you, my friend. I'm gonna talk about you a little bit later, in a good way, of course, but I'm gonna talk about you in a little bit. The Ravens do play Monday night. I know we're playing against Indianapolis Colts. That's kind of fascinating. We're gonna talk about football in a little bit, but I'm gonna get back to this. A lot of people do their commerce on Facebook. Even Mark Zuckerberg, I think he lost about $6 billion in that little outage. $6 billion. I mean, that's yeah, he's a multi-quadrillionaire. You know, he got a lot of money, but $6 billion is you're gonna feel that in your wallet, right? When you at a place where you can make $6 billion, where you lose 6 billion, 60 billion. Okay, I'm being corrected. It was 60 billion. Okay. All right. So what I'm looking at, Crystal, is in Forbes is saying he lost nearly $6 billion in a day after also facing political. Okay. To the service and revenue estimated loss, Facebook. Okay, I get it. So Facebook itself lost about $65 billion, but Mark Zuckerberg alone lost 6 billion. Let that sink in for a little bit. Like, I just got to think about that. Like, how does that? Wow, Lord, I don't want to know how that feels. If I'm in a place where I have $6 billion to lose, I definitely don't want to lose it. And if my business has $65 billion to lose, I don't want to lose it. But woo, that's pretty bad. But let's get back to the little old people like you and me, right? We rely heavily on social media. I do rely heavily on Facebook. I mean, right now, like two of the three broadcasts are on Facebook. The other one's on YouTube, and the YouTube channel is not the one that's used as much. Matter of fact, no one's on the YouTube channel as I'm talking right now. They look at it later on down the road, but more people right now are looking at the so on Facebook. So right there, imagine that. Like I may not be able to have a show if we if if it goes down again. I don't know. It's something I've been thinking long and hard about. What would life be like if we did not have? What would be the next thing? Like, what's going to be the next thing? Like, I just can't imagine. I remember life before we had Facebook, but I can't imagine what's next. Like, what are we going to come up with next? And then even in that, there's been some conversation. There was like a whistleblower who was talking about just what really is going on behind the scenes with it. And I don't know. I think I'm the kind of person that looks at social media for what it is and just recognize that I guess for me, I didn't realize how many people live their lives based off of what is posted on it. I found myself arguing the other day with about something as silly as the Ravens when the Ravens played Denver. And they were 4 yards away from a streak that we were trying to tie with the Pittsburgh Steelers with consecutive games with 100 rushing yards or more. And surprisingly, when you talk about my beloved Ravens, because I love the Ravens. When you talk about Lamar Jackson, a lot of people had a lot of stuff to say about him because they say he's a good. I remember when he first started, he's a great running back. Dude, that is like so disrespectful. He's a quarterback. But they were like, what makes his game is his legs and the fact that he's able to run the ball so well. Well, first of all, Lamar is getting older. Like they're beating him up. And I think we knew that was going to happen, that after a while he was going to have to figure out another way he was going to have to figure out another way to really get the games won, because after a while his body there's a reason why running backs don't last long, right? And so you can't sustain it and be the quarter. It's a lot. So we already knew that. But the fact that he actually played a game and the streak of rushing yards was actually in jeopardy, but we were winning the game, goes to show that he's transformed this game. And so there was an issue where at the very end of the game, it was done. It was a done deal. It was like 4 seconds or 3 seconds on the clock. and we got the ball back, and we were winning 20-7. So in most cases, you just take what's called the victory formation, spike the ball, game's over, right? Let the time run out. But this particular time, the coach Harbaugh, said, "Do it, run, try to get those 4 yards that we need, or whatever yards that we need to keep the streak going." And so they did that, and there was vitriol that came back. So anyway, somebody was like, "Oh, it was classless. It was, it was pathetic that they did all that." And I was just like, I mean, I guess if you're on the other side of it, you could see it that way. But I would have seen it as classless if he had went for it, just to show off, went for a Hail Mary pass into the end zone there's no need for it, right? Or if we called Justin Tucker out and were just to see if he can make a 75-yard field goal. That's pathetic. Why? There's no need for that. That's dumb. And that's actually dumb because you're risking the chance of getting people hurt. But what they were doing was just trying to keep the record. And some people were getting upset. And so I found myself just arguing with this guy about it and realized, why am I even having this argument about this? But then I said, I'm kind of happy that I'm having this argument as opposed to a political argument, right? For once, I'm having an argument just about football. It's something that's light, and I don't think anybody is going to start a riot because of our argument about what we said. But Jonathan, you bring up a great point. How much does social media attribute to disunity that we see today? Something he's been thinking about lately. That's a great question. I don't know. I think that I don't think it's just so much a part of social media. I think it's more of access to information. And I think that it's all about the game of who controls the information that is cast out and what people's state frame of mind is when they get the information. I just really believe it's that. And I believe that, because the same rules can apply for the fact that we have 24-hour news cycle, right? We have, I remember back in the day when I was young, there was the morning sun that you got when you woke up. It was sitting outside the house. There was the afternoon sun, which was delivered, midday if you had that. And then there was the evening sun, which was the evening newspaper that was delivered. And so those were the 3 pieces of news. Otherwise, and if you had TV, you can maybe watch the 11 o'clock news. But now we have, you wake up in the morning. If you wake up at early, it's 4:30. You got local news from 4:30 to 7. Then we have the Today Show or Good Morning America or CBS Morning. You have those until 8, 9, sometimes 10 o'clock, right? And then not to mention you have the noon news and then the evening news. Ours starts at 4 o'clock here in Baltimore. It ends at 6:30. But then you get the CBS evening news from 6:30 to 7. And then we get another half hour of news. This is just local news. And then we have the 11 o'clock news at night. So just look at that. We get all this information, and depending on the level of bias or how we're attracted to what we hear, it's just a lot of information. And so you have that going on. I think that plays a big part of it. I think that social media could play a part of it, but I think that, like anything else, it comes down to discipline. And I think some people just aren't disciplined in that area. And I think some people they have nothing else to do with their lives, and so they get caught up in it. Myself included. There are times where I can find myself for hours scrolling, right? But yeah, I think that it could have attributed, go back to your original question, John, how much does it attribute to disunity? I think it contributes to it, but I also think the same argument can be said for how much unity, it describes to it. It's nice to know that I have people in other parts of the world that stand in unity with me about a certain issue, right? When people post the different when they change their profile pictures to do certain things. I remember back when the whole Freddie Gray situation really took a hold, and we had the blackout where everybody blacked out their profile picture like that. Even now, from time to time, I'll see people who still have, because they don't use social media that much, and I see that, I'm just like, whoa, I didn't even know that was something that you ascribed to, that you were in unity with me. So I think that the argument could be made that it also contributes to unity as well. Yeah. It's a great question. Something that maybe we'll explore a little later in future show, Jonathan, because I think you're right. Um, yeah, I mean, social media is a big player, and I think at the end of the day, we got to figure out what's next. Because I'm worried that it's in jeopardy. What we've known is in jeopardy, and so we're going to have to pivot. So, speaking of pivoting, let's take a break. 2020 gave birth to a lot of endeavors. Here in 2021, everyone has had to get in touch with their inner producer. Our man Garrett Brace is one of those guys you need on your team. We at Headspace with Dr. Mike are clients of his, as he ensures all of our audio files are crisp, clean, and cool. If you have any audio, video, and even lighting needs, hit him up at G Walt Services on Instagram. Remember, G Walt Services, servicing all your audio, video, and lighting needs. Oh, Lord have mercy. So, it's always fun how football can get people riled up. Talk about disunity. Go Browns. And so we got this argument about the Browns are last. They're lost. I don't know, Jamal. They're looking pretty good. And matter of fact, I think the Ravens are tied with the Browns, and I almost feel like the Browns are ahead of us in our division. So we're gonna see. They looking kind of. We knew this though. We knew. I mean, there's only about a certain amount of time where y'all can keep getting the top draft pick, and it all of a sudden starts showing up. And that kind of goes into what I want to talk about a little bit later about process. Matter of fact, I think I'm gonna get into it now because it is a process, right? We're talking about football, and one of the things that we have a situation. If those that follow football, you know that there's what's called the draft season. The draft season is after the season ends, and how they kind of there's ins and outs. But one of the things that happens with the draft is like the lowest performing teams, the ones that like are ranked the lowest, that have the lowest standings and stuff. They end up getting like earlier ahead in the draft, and they end up getting some of the best draft picks. And that typically happens for most sports, baseball, basketball to a degree as well. And so the Browns for years were just dismal. Like the Cleveland Browns were pretty awful. And they kept getting these top draft picks, and eventually, it's one of those things where it starts showing up. And I mean, that's just it. And what I was thinking about as I was thinking about my heads up for the day is the process of the process. The process of the process, right? One of the things I talk about a lot in my talks as I give talks and trainings and stuff is I talk about the definition of a process, which is a series of events that must take place in order for one big event to happen. What's that? A series of events that must take place in order for one big event to happen. One more time, the series of events that must take place in order for one big event to happen. That's a process, right? And one of the things that you have to think about is that there are so many processes in our lives, but we got to think about, like, it doesn't always show up right then and there, the work. So think about the Browns, right? The Browns kept on getting, they're going into rebuilding phase. Our beloved Orioles here in Baltimore are going through some of the same stuff. Our season's over. We're nowhere in the postseason, right? We knew that going into it. Matter of fact, they always advertise at the beginning of the season. They're like, don't get excited about these wins because this is still a rebuilding year. And sure enough, as we get into the season, it's like, oh, it's our baseball team. They're not very good. But they talk about the fact that this is rebuilding. It's a process. Like, we got to start rebuilding, and it doesn't happen overnight. I was thinking about, my pastor talks about this a lot. We do trainings in my job at this place called the Maritime Institute. And the Maritime Institute is where they train longshoremen. So when you go through like different ports, and you see like those big cranes and how they get the supplies and stuff off of the big barges, they train them to do that. And so one of the things that you find out when you start studying that is that those big ships, in order for them to stop while they're in the open water, they need at least 3 to 5 miles of clearance in order to stop. Now think about that. Those big ships, in order for them to stop, they have to plan. This is going to get you. They have to plan 5 miles out, or know that they're not going to hit a stop until 5 miles out. Same thing with a turnaround. They get to a point and they realize they got to shift or they got to turn. They can't just say, all right, let's turn and go like we do a car. they literally have to give themselves 3 to 5 miles clearance to do the turnaround. That's a process, right? And what happens is if they don't follow the process through, because you're like, we don't have time for 3 to 5 miles, then they risk the chance of capsizing. Ooh, this gonna bless you right now. They risk the chance of capsizing because they haven't taken in, aren't willing to take into account the amount of time it's going to take to complete what it is they're trying to complete. Dr. Mike, what are you trying to say here? What I'm trying to say is that we got to think about there are processes that we are having and going through in our lives, and we're wondering why things aren't necessarily working the way we wanted them to. And maybe we got to go back to the fact that we didn't fully go by the process. Case in point, I was having a conversation just before this show, just before I logged in to do the show today. And I have a Marco Polo with a group of some friends. We call ourselves Church on Fire Elders. Shout out to y'all. I know Bree is on here, or she was on here, and I know Sean listens to the podcast. But one of the things that we were talking about was how there are some folk that get involved in deliverance services. And one of our friends, she really does. She's like in this, we were kind of joking that she's become the deliverer. We ultimately know that Jesus is the ultimate deliverer, but she is the vessel by which he tends to work to help get some people delivered. And we were just kind of expressing our opinion on what our views on like deliverance services and stuff like that. And depending on where you at, she's here. Depending on where you're at with your churchiness. I come from a Baptist background. We're a little more progressive and a little more lean more. We're not quite Pentecostal, but we lean a little more freer in that area, if you know what I mean. We're not as fundamental. And so I've been through my share of deliverance services where you get some folk got some things that they're dealing with and they get delivered from it. But here's the thing that we were talking about is at some point, that is just the event that happens. Where the true work comes in is what you do after the event. So I can go ahead and have you raise your hands. I can lay hands on your forehead. I can douse you with all the olive oil, the best olive oil from the Mount of Olives themselves. Matter of fact, this olive oil I have may very well have been in the same vat that they used to produce the olive oil that the disciples had during the Passover. I'm just saying, this olive oil may be real special, and I can douse you with it. And I can say, fall out. I'm being extra right now, but you get the point. Fall out. We delivered you from, the self-righteousness that you've been dealing with, or even the disease of promiscuity, or whatever it is. We deliver, we get some deliverance from it. That's all well and good. But where the work actually has to happen is in the rest of the process. Bree said, watch yourself, that can get serious. I'm just saying, it's a process, series of events that must take place in order for one big event to happen. And so, yes, I can go ahead and I can be part of this deliverance service, but then at the same time, it comes a point where I got to do some work, right? I got to start making sure that I got somebody who's discipling me, who's teaching me how to start, because there's a reason why this addiction exists. There's a reason why. The addiction is not really the thing you're being delivered from. It's what's at the root of the addiction. That thing just blessed me. It's at the root of what the addiction is. Like for me, I recognize that I have a thing where I tend to go to food when I'm worried about something, right? But it's not so much that it's the food I need to be delivered from, because actually food is good. It's what's causing me to pull to that food and not pull to the word. And so what I have to start doing is understanding what that is, and I got to do the work. And a lot of times what happens is we go to these events and we get on this mountaintop experience. We've been to, how many of y'all been to retreats? You've been to different, services that have just changed your whole life. You've read a book that just really touched you. You had somebody impart some words of wisdom into you, and it really moved you. Well, that's part of the thing. The question is, what do you do the next day? It's a process, series of events that must take place in order for one big event to happen. So a lot of times what happens is we get disenchanted with the moment, and then we start second guessing God because we're like, well, Lord, I thought you delivered me. He did. Because all you got to do is believe in faith. Cry out to him. You know what the word is. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen, right? When we cast our cares onto him, he cares for us. Like, come on now, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. Like, we got all that. But there's work that we got to do after it. So we're going around being mad at God because, God, I thought you delivered me from this, but we haven't done the work. I'm a part of a health and wellness program. Literally has saved my life. By the way, I'm just going to give y'all an update. The scale this morning said 488, y'all. I'm telling y'all something. God is working. 488. I started August 3rd at 554. But let me tell you what the difference is. The difference is that I've been following the process. Because what was happening was I thought I was good enough. We'd gotten there. Who's been there? You thought, okay, I got enough. I did a couple of weeks. I was all right, well, I'm good now. Oh, yeah, I'm good. I can eat a couple of these fries and I'm still going to be all right. No, you're not. You're not, because your mindset ain't even right. And so the process for me is, one of it is before I even get into what I'm supposed to be eating, the first piece is my one-on-one coaching that's supposed to happen with me. So I'm supposed to meet with my coach virtually once a week. So it starts with me just answering the phone. They call me. If I don't answer the phone, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. The second piece is I'm supposed to, there's community that I'm supposed to be a part of. We've talked about community on this show before. There's help. We have a call every Tuesday night from 9 to 9:30 Eastern time where everybody who is on program just gets together. It's a support call. I wasn't participating in those. Here's the other part. There's education, just learning about, there's like this book we call it the life book, and we just work in it, and it kind of just helps you with understanding your why and really getting to the bottom line of what's really going on with you. I wasn't doing that. And then there were the fuelings. For me, I do my 5 fuelings a day in my lean and green meal, right? And I was doing that kind of, but I wasn't really doing it. And then I'm going back saying, well, this isn't working for me. Of course it's not working for me because I'm not doing the program. I'm halving it. You see, that's what's happening in our lives. We go ahead and we say, you're supposed to fix me. Well, wait a minute, there's work that you got to do. Darius, you reminded me today, Philippians 2:12. Paul said, work out your salvation with fear and trembling. It's the idea that, yes, you got saved, but now you got to work that salvation out. Sweetheart, understand that just because you said yes to the Lord doesn't mean that your life's going to be peachy keen. In the long term, you're building up wealth and riches in the kingdom, right? And we recognize it's not really about the wealth and riches piece of it, but it's about just making sure we're setting ourselves up so that we can serve him forever. Whew. But the idea here is that there's a process that we got to go through. Think about it. Those diamond rings, ladies, y'all want the men to give you for your when they want to propose to you. How do you think the diamonds come out? It's through pressure. It's a process. I mean, you don't want a lump of coal sitting on your knuckle. Those swords, those knives that you like to, when you eat your steak, what makes the knives work? It has to go through the fire. That's a process. And so then what makes you think that all of a sudden everything else is going to work out? All we did was an event. The real work happens in the process. So hopefully that's a blessing to you, because that was a blessing to me. The process of the process. With that being said, Crystal, go ahead and give us a break.
Follow the Headspace with Dr. Mike show on all social media platforms at Headspace DM. We want to keep you up to date on all of our hot topics and keep the dialogue going even after the show. We also value what's important to you and your community. DM your show ideas to us on Instagram or Facebook. The next time you log on, you may hear Dr. Mike discussing the very topic or issue close to your heart.
Preacher, preach this morning. My goodness. Speaking of Pastor Bree on here, she is doing an awesome work. If you guys, I know many of you got involved in my Bible studies on Wednesday nights, and it's not that I lost the fervor in it. There's some things that are actually happening. I'm in the process of, we're building up our Bible Institute and Learning Center at my church. So stay tuned, because there's some cool stuff happening with that. And so that's kind of been taking a bit of my time. And so I couldn't do my Bible studies on Wednesday nights. I love those times. They were great times. But y'all want to find a Bible study to tap into, Bree Dupree of Bree Dupree Ministries, you need to tap into those. We've had her on the show as a host, and we'll have her on again. But if you're looking for something to really tap into, you need to check her out. Bree, go ahead and let the people know how they can get you, what your website address is and stuff. And stay tuned, because we got some things planned. I know that Restored Hope and Headspace with Dr. Mike is going to be working with Bree Dupree Ministries and some projects and stuff in the coming months. But I'm gonna tell you something. That's a woman of God right there. Who, let me tell you something. There are times where I joke about this, but it's the truth. There's sometimes I won't talk to her because I don't want her calling me out on something, because it's like she is. You know how when you go to the hotel or even just anywhere and you have the option of doing Wi-Fi to the internet, or you can like just be tapped into it. She's tapped into the spirit. She tapped in. Like she got the Ethernet cable. And like it's almost like the Lord just tells her. It's like almost like she just wakes up and just knows what you done. I ain't even lying. Bree. I ain't even lying. She said Bible study is every Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. on her Facebook page. So there you go. You want to get to some good Bible study, you need to do that. All right, y'all. What else we got to talk about? Look, because y'all done got me talking about process. All right. So I've been waiting to talk about this because y'all know I love me some Big Brother. Love Big Brother. Big Brother and Survivor. I've watched every single episode of both of those since they came out. And I just love it. That's one of the reasons why I'm the Biggest Loser. I was like, I'm fat and I like reality TV. So that's why I do it. I love reality TV. And so anyway, Big Brother made history this year because for the first time ever, first of all, they had a record number of minorities on the show, which was, that just doesn't happen. And then number two, the minorities that got on there, particularly the African Americans, the Black cast members, very early on formed what has been now known as the Cookout Alliance. And there's a lot of vitriol about it. There's some mixed feelings about it. I would not, because I understand it, I don't agree with it, but I do understand it. And I do respect those who have the feelings that they have about it. Basically, what it was they said that, look, there has never been a Black winner of the Big Brother. And so if we keep our alliance throughout the whole season, we can guarantee that a Black person will finally win Big Brother. And now that's amazing feat. And I think that the true Big Brother aficionado can just appreciate the fact that they were able to keep an alliance throughout the entire season. That never happens. Like it, and they not only were able to keep the alliance, but they were able to keep it a secret from other people. There were times where people were kind of picking up on it, like there was something going on, but they didn't. When they got to the jury and started finding out what really happened, they were really impressed, the real people. And so what they did was they set it up where all the Black people had a person. They called them. They would say, this is my person. And any other circumstances, their person probably would have been their ally through their run on the show, right? And they were a non-African American person. So how it worked was if there ever was a moment when one of them would be put on the block, they would make sure that their person got put on the block, or if their person got put on the block, that they would volunteer to be a pawn for that person, or they were, yes, Lori, I'm there. I was here for the whole thing. And so they would volunteer to be a pawn for it, knowing that, and that takes a lot of trust, because at some point, the game starts getting on you. You start realizing there's a chance I won't win by doing this alliance. Case in point, that happened on my show. Like it came to a point where, I had what I thought to be alliances, and they ended up, no, they had to do what was best for their game. And my show's a little different, but not really. It was a game, and I forgot. And never mind. I'm not even gonna talk about that right now. I still get upset with myself sometimes because I watch every episode of Big Brother and every episode of Survivor, and I kick myself sometimes because I did not play the game like I watched those shows. I feel like I was the epitome of the guy or the woman who has the immunity idol and doesn't play it and then gets eliminated. They got the immunity idol in their possession and they don't play it. And I just anyway, I digress. You get to a point where they were, and so the fact that happened and they did it though, the fact that they were really stuck to it, and I guess when you think of these reality TV shows, the rule of thumb is that only 6% of what really happens goes onto everything else is on the cutting room floor. And so I didn't realize towards the end though that they really did sell out for the process. Speaking of process, right? They did sell out for it, and they realized that it was even bigger than them, which meant that they knew there was going to be some carnage. The very architect, who I think personally, had it not been Xavier who won, I think Tiffany probably would have been the next. She would have been my other choice to win. Although there were a couple times where she got caught up in the moment, and she even admits that. But had they not had that alliance, I don't think we would have the outcome that we had. I just, for whatever reason, it doesn't work out that way. But nonetheless, it's caused some, people upset, like, oh my gosh, if we had an all-white alliance, then people would be upset. And I mean, I hear that. I feel like it was different. I think that whenever we talk about these racial conversations, I think we, it's hard. It's just hard because I think we're going for this equality piece, and it's going to always be lopsided. It just really is. It's not so much about equality, it's about equity. And it's just, I don't know. I would love to get into a more intellectual conversation about it with someone, even someone who doesn't agree with me on it. So stay tuned, because I think that why is it a problem when we do it? I mean, Lori, that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. But then the argument that comes back about that is, so what you do is you replace a wrong for another wrong. And that it's deeper than that, right? For the record, Lori, I ascribe to where you're at. I'm with you. I don't feel like there was anything that wrong. They did it, especially given the circumstances, and historically speaking, it never works out that way. So I don't know. I want to have more of a conversation about it later on down the road. But I do want to congratulate my big brother brothers and sisters, and hopefully I will meet some of them at Reality Rally in the coming days. There's another game that's out that's on Netflix right now, and I have not allowed myself to watch it. Anybody been watching Squid Games? Yeah, I've been seeing the memes about it. And there's this one particular one that's a Baltimore version of it. And it's basically like, why Baltimoreans probably wouldn't do well at Squid Game, because I guess they were playing a version of, in Squid Game they play a version of red light, green light. And so when it's green light, you move, and when it's red light, you stop. And I guess what happens is their version of red light, green light, though, if you move, you get shot. Because what it was they were like red light, green light, red light, they would stop, but then they started playing Baltimore club music. And the guy was like, oh, you could tell he was talking to himself because he was trying to resist the temptation. But then, if any of y'all know Baltimore club music, it's different little songs. Shorty, you better ride, da 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 da. And you got my man, my man. And then you got follow me, yeah, follow me. Oop it, doop it, dope it, dab it. Oop it, doop it, dope it, dab it. Oop it, doop it, dope it, dab it. Oop it, doop it, doop it. This one, watch out for the big girl. Watch out for the big girl. See what I'm doing there? Like, all of a sudden I start getting into it, and I'm like, oh, all of a sudden club music has that like way about it. And so it's like you can hear one of the little tunes and be like, okay, that's cool. But then another one will come on, the beat will drop, bam, you find yourself before you even realize it, you just getting into it. And so it was like, well, Baltimoreans won't make it because all of a sudden they dropped the beat and homeboy started going for broke and he ended up getting shot. I don't know. Y'all watching the Squid Games, I just don't know. I think at what point, and of course it's on Netflix, and I have this thing with Netflix anyway. I have this love-hate relationship with Netflix because Netflix will get you hooked on a show and then they'll leave you hanging. Like they'll leave you, just flat out leave you hanging. I'm still waiting for the last season of Ozarks to come out. They'll just leave you hanging. Or then like I'm really mad with the college friends. Yes, Lori, they'll cancel it. They'll leave you hanging or they'll cancel it. Like Friends from College or something like that. I thought was great. It was a great show. And then all of a sudden they canceled it. And it's like, bro, what you doing? So I just have this love-hate relationship because then there's some things that they put out. And it's like, whoa, there's a show. If you are looking for a show, and I guess, I mean, this is my show, so I can do whatever I want, I guess, with it. There's a show called Blood and Water. It's based out of South Africa. And it is banging. Like if you need something that's fascinating, it is good. And the second season just dropped and Sherelle and I killed it in a matter of days. Like Blood and Water. Woo, it's good. It is really good. I can give you just a little synopsis of it. It's about a young woman, a girl who her sister was abducted when she was a baby, but they never, Crystal, Blood and Water is fire. Sherelle is time in. And they couldn't find her. And then somehow or another, she started putting some pieces together and realized that the sister's alive and she thinks she figured out who the sister was. And the first season was incredible. The second season was, y'all, Blood and Water. Yes, you need to go ahead and just go ahead and do it. And it's not many episodes, so it goes by quick. Clickbait was great. I loved Clickbait. But like I said, I have this love-hate relationship. But I'm gonna tell y'all something. I know Crystal probably looking at me like I'm crazy because I think we missed a break, but that's okay. After the break, I'll tell you about this. Go ahead, Crystal. I'm gonna tell you about what I kind of got clued in on.
Our world is filled with polarizing topics that land most people on one side or the other. The Headspace with Dr. Mike team isn't afraid to take them on. Monthly, we will invite people on both sides of some of the most controversial topics, from the serious to the silly, to debate their positions. We look forward to charged discussions that will inform and entertain. DM your head-to-head show ideas to us on Instagram or Facebook at Headspace DM.
I believe I'm about to say this, and those that know me know where I'm about to come with this. But I actually, if I had to pick a streaming service if I had to choose, Disney would be one. But you know what the other one would be? Apple TV. Apple TV, y'all, I think does what I wish Netflix would. Like, it's like I watch these Netflix shows and then the way they end, it just is like, ew. But it feels like Apple TV actually gives some substance. And so, first of all, Ted Lasso is incredible. The writing of Ted Lasso is phenomenal. Like, there's a reason why it keeps winning all the Emmys that it wins. It's the wit of it is just, it's quick. And if you're not into soccer, I get it, but it is so good. Like, just the story behind it. So you need to do yourselves a favor and hit up Ted Lasso. It is really good. The other one that I actually like on Apple TV is Truth Be Told. So Octavia Spencer is in this with some other folk too. Mekhi Phifer. Where he been hiding, right? He's on it. There's a couple other people. Who's the guy that always be cheating on his wife in the black movies? I'm thinking of Waiting to Exhale. He was the piano player that was cheating on his wife in The Chair was good on Netflix, Lori. I agree with you on that. But even that, just the way it ended, didn't settle with me. But what's that guy's name? Y'all know what I'm talking about. He always having an affair on his wife in the black movies. Waiting to Exhale was one. Soul Food was another. I think in Waiting to Exhale he got his car blown up by Angela Bassett's character. Soul Food, I'm dating myself, I know. But anyway, he's in it as well. He's not as scandalous in this one. It's nice to see him in this role because he's not scandalous. But anyway, truth be told, and then here's another one that if you're in the sci-fi Foundation, oh man, it's really good, really good. Like I have to finish an episode last night. I watched Ted Lasso and chuckled. I'm almost certain. And it's one of those things that I will just turn the TV off in the room so Shirley can sleep, and I'll put it on my iPad and listen to it on my headphones. So anyway, eager to hear what y'all are watching on your things. So we talked about social media a little earlier. These little kids about to get themselves in trouble. Have y'all paid attention to TikTok? There's a slap your teacher challenge. Foundation is on Apple TV, Kevin. Yes. It's based off of Isaac Asimov's book. I think it's called Foundation. So if you're into Isaac Asimov, I think you'll appreciate it. Lori said educators are ready. They are. So there's this TikTok challenge called Slap Your Teacher. It's either slap your teacher or destroy some public property. Daryl said, let them try it with my wife if they want. I'm just, y'all, what? And so here's the thing. I heard about it, right? But then I actually saw footage where they were doing it. I said, oh, Lord help us. Lord help us. The silly little babies. I just don't know, y'all. And it's hard because, I got to be careful what I say here because I do work for Child and Family Services, child and adult welfare. So I got to really be careful. In public, I'm gonna say, do not slap the children, y'all. Do not slap them back. I'm supposed to tell y'all that. Do not slap them back. To that end, that's a hard one, right? It's one of those things where I went back to my college classes and I just said to them real quick, I said, I'm just letting y'all know, every last one of y'all are adults in this class. So, I won't go to jail. I won't go to jail for defending myself after y'all because I teach college age, not minors. But Lord, what are we gonna do with them? Who comes up with them things? And I was telling Chevelle, I said, what an entitled, I think one of the arguments that was made, I was watching something where they were talking about, and they were like, we figured out that we could do it and get away with it. And so why not do it? And I was like, no, ma'am, that's not how this works though. Like, anyway, I'm not going to say too much more about that, but just telling the children, I look at that little one that's 9 years old in our house, and I hope he's not stupid enough to try that. Let's go ahead and take a quick break, Crystal. Focused on photo, versed in video, For Any Media brings visions to life from headshots to family shoots, casual candids to structured scenes. Our team can provide whatever you need. In Baltimore, you may have seen us at local events such as the Poly City Tailgate or the Randallstown Grom. You can find us on all social media platforms at the number 4 Any Media. For Any Media, for anything. Contact us so we can create. Can't wait to get the team back in so we all can talk about these things because y'all are fun to talk to in the chat. But you already know that my team got some things to say. But folk are not being held accountable as far as this type of. I agree, Daryl. I think that there's a bigger conversation that needs to be had about the role that parents need to be playing in their child's life, or the role for those that don't have parents per se, who is on record to keeping making sure they're taken care of. And I think that's just it. Like, I don't know, just that's just disrespectful. Like, I remember growing up and in school, we had if you got in a fight with someone, like one of your peers, you pretty much guaranteed a suspension. But if you hit a teacher, you were in line to get expelled. Like you actually could get kicked out of the school. And that was like a known, and very rarely, and I mean, and maybe I just went to the right school, but very rarely did I ever hear of a teacher getting hit. And if a teacher did get hit, it was like they were breaking up the fight, and arms were flailing and stuff, and they kind of just got in the crosshairs. They kind of got caught up in the scuffle. But there's a batch now where it's like they're not scared. Like, you can't do anything to me. And they know that. They will tell you that. Well, you can't do anything to me anyway. So there's that. Like, how many videos have we seen on YouTube of that happening in the classroom where teachers were just getting popped? They're like, because you can't do anything to me, because they know that, right? And to be honest with you, that's cheap, right? And to be honest with you, you think you're big and bad and stuff, but that's actually a coward move. And it makes you wonder, well, who are your parents? Because it almost makes you wonder, like, what kind of person and what kind of integrity does that person have? And this is not being judgmental, because I'm not actually speaking to any one particular person. But I think that goes to show to where we're at. Like, what are you teaching these children at home? Daryl said kids are attacking adults, authorities, because their caregivers are doing the same thing. They do what they see. You know what? That's a good point, Daryl. That's a very good point. Yeah, that's crazy. I agree, Michelle. Yeah, it's just, and I think this actually goes a little back to what we talked about with social media and how we have so much access to these things. Like, you could hear that it's happening, but actually see it, then all of a sudden that emboldens people. They're like, oh, well, if they got away with it, I think I can get away with it. And all of a sudden they're trying it out. And I don't know. I know right now that what was it? Was it Bernie Mac, or was it it was one of the comedians in Kings of Comedy that said people live in the world of wish or hope. And the idea is there's some people who was like, well, I hope nobody does that. I hope I'm not living in a world of hope. I wish Mike would. Like, I wish Mike would think that it's okay to do that, right? I wish he would, because I'm not even, I hope Mike would. No. Such an entertainer. That's it. The difference between wish and hope. Yep. Like I think he was talking about, you got some people who are hoping, I hope no one's sitting in our seat. He's like, I wish somebody would be in my seat. And I actually find myself like that. I find myself like that. Oh, I wish they would, because it's almost like I'm kind of ready to have a little scuffle, not a scuffle like I'm not necessarily to fight, but I'm a debater. So a good argument, I'm kind of down, but I'm laughing a little bit because there's some truth to it. But I wish Mike would. I just, and then every now and again, and I love my son, and I think we've all been there with our parents, that we've lost our minds for a second, right? And there are times when he loses his mind, and you just gotta regulate him back, drive him back, get him back. He gets himself together. Sometimes they just lose their little minds. Their hormones just have a spike and something. They do that. I mean, we did that, didn't we? I remember the day when I thought, I was going to tell Dwayne Allen Dorsey what I was going to do. I thought. Yeah, kids are red. Some are rude, entitled, and different. There is a generation that's coming through that appears that way, Lori. I don't think all of them are, but there is a batch. It's becoming more and more noticeable. And there are times where I wonder if it's just because I'm getting older, or if it just really is that way. Michelle said reasons why social media platforms need regulations is terrible. Yeah, I think that you're right. I think that there is something for some kind of regulation. I just don't think that the initial way of regulating it is necessarily the right way, because we had to do this balance between freedom and speech, but at the same time, keeping some folk at bay. I think there we go. We talk about a process. Yeah, I agree with y'all. You guys have made this a great conversation. Stay tuned, because we're going to have to talk more about that. I think I may even bring on a couple of my psychologist friends to kind of help us through this, because I would like to know about this. I would like to know, how can we work with this younger generation, especially with many of them. There's a bunch of them you'd be surprised who are being raised by their older siblings. They're not even being raised by their parents or their grandparents even. There's a batch of them that their grandparents are not that well. I don't want to say they're not that much older than them, but the difference in age is not what it was. I was at least 30, 40, no, 50. I was like at least 40 plus years age difference between me and my grandparents, right? 20, so at least 25-year difference between me and my mom. And just the age gap is a little different nowadays. So have you done a show on what is freedom of speech? That's one we may talk about that, Daryl. That's a good one that I may have to explore. So keep the topics coming. Well, anyway, this was a great show. I appreciate it. Let's do one more break, and then we're gonna go ahead and cut out.
Follow the Headspace with Dr. Mike show on all social media platforms at Headspace DM. We want to keep you up to date on all of our hot topics and keep the dialogue going even after the show. We also value what's important to you and your community. DM your show ideas to us on Instagram or Facebook. The next time you log on, you may hear Dr. Mike discussing the very topic or issue close to your heart.
All right, team. Well, you know what? Keep those topics coming. Thank you all for engaging with us. The team will be back in soon enough. We got Christy says she's coming in towards the end of October. Her maternity leave will be up. Chris and Christine will be back, and Kim, she comes through from time to time. And of course, we're going to have some of our other guests come through from time to time as well. As always, love you all. There's nothing y'all can do about it. I pray for you and just wish you all the best that God has for you. And everybody be safe out there. Please be safe. Until we talk again, peace.
Thanks for tuning in to Headspace with Dr. Mike. We hope you enjoyed the show. Be sure to follow us on social media at Headspace DM to continue the dialogue with other Headspacers regarding today's show. Everyone is filling their headspace with something. The question is, what are you filling yours with? Tune in next week.